Hi friends, this video is about justice and a little aspect of justice, which is our turn for something and what's going on internally when we are fighting for our turn and how to make a different love-based choice in that case. I'm Stacy Rocklein, and it is my mission to get more love flowing into people's lives. Self-love flowing, love flowing in relationships, and love coming at us from everywhere, removing the blocks to keep that flowing in and out. Let me give you a little bit of a setup because this just happened to me recently. I have two of my boys play piano, and so they have piano lessons, and piano lessons happen at the piano teacher's house. So every week we have a time slot, and that's our slot, and we show up and we have our piano lesson. But during vacations, sometimes we move lessons around because the kids don't have school, so they have more daytime availability, and we go out of town every once in a while, so that can shift, but not always. Anyway, it is vacation and we show up at piano lessons at our regular time. And as we're getting out of the car, there's another set of students getting out of the car at the same time. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I tell my boys to just hold tight, and I go inside and I say, like, hey, isn't this our slot? And she's like, oh no, I meant to text you. I scheduled them instead. Clearly we had an assumption on my part that we get our regular time slot. And there was an assumption on her part that it's vacation and everything's out the window. And right then I heard two different things happening in my head. I heard an old pattern and I heard a new pattern. And I want to talk about those two patterns. Especially as Americans, we really take our turn very seriously. You can see this in how we line up for things. We line up in, one by one order. We learned this when we were little, like in preschool and kindergarten. We learned how to cue properly. We even have times where we take a number, right? We take a number so we know where our spot is. If you think back to elementary school, do you remember if somebody cut in line? Like, it was a big deal. They were ostracized for that kind of behavior. So we're very serious about our turn. And you can see this come up with, if you've ever been in a line, just watch people in line. You can see the people who are kind of like looking around sort of suspiciously, making sure that nobody's gonna encroach on their position. If someone comes in and they're sort of standing in a weird place and it's not clear what they're doing, people are like, you better not be thinking about taking my place in line. I mean, it's no joke. People are out there defending their territory. Here's another example. When you're at an office and you've got an appointment, and so you're there and you've been waiting, and then someone comes after you and they get called before you, what's going on there? How come they're getting back there before me? We do this all over the place. It's our turn, it's our spot. And I used to be very much about the justice of my turn. One example is that in my 20s, I went to a lot of live concerts. And if it's general admission, that means that you don't have an assigned seat. So we would have our blanket and, we would put it out and, everybody's having a merry time. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, pull the corners of that blanket in and let's just make sure that we hold our area so that everybody in our group has a place to sit. And it's stressful. It's stressful trying to maintain your boundaries between yourself and other people. And ultimately what ends up happening anyway, my group wanders away and are having a great time not worrying about the blanket. And they don't have to because, Stacy's on blanket duty and making sure that we've got our spot, we've got our turn. So what's happening when that's going on? Because it's actually fear-based thinking. We don't dig into it that much, but what is happening when we start to obsess about our turn, our spot, our space? is that we fear other people are not going to respect our turn, that people aren't going to watch out for us, that people aren't going to have our best interests at heart, that everybody's going to be in it for themselves and we've got to get in there and defend ourselves too. So it's really fear-based thinking. And I recognized this in myself a while back. So I decided to do an experiment and just to see what would happen if I just trusted. If I just trusted that everybody around me was going to do the right thing. What is super cool when you do that is that, for one, when you're in a line and you don't have to defend your spot, you get to smile at everybody. You get to make friends. You don't have to look around suspiciously. You get to enjoy yourself. When you're at Costco and you've got a huge full cart and the person behind you has one thing, you're like, hey, go ahead. All of a sudden you become generous because that you trust that everybody is out looking out for everybody. It's a totally different mindset. You begin to realize that in many, many cases, people are watching out for each other. You end up in the situation where it's like, here, go ahead. No, you go. No, you go. As soon as you take that step forward, that love-based step towards people, it disarms them. And suddenly everybody's watching out for everybody. And what's the big deal anyway? Let's say you are delayed 5 minutes. Your appointment was at a certain time and it's gone 5 minutes over. I mean, we'll talk in a second about if you have to be somewhere, but if you don't have to be anywhere, especially now, we've all got a cell phone. I can check email, I can check social media, I can be doing things. I certainly have ways to fill my time. So what's the harm if I don't have to be anywhere in being flexible? No harm at all. So often we defend that turn and there's not even really any purpose for it other than the justice of it. And the justice of it is the right wrong. And that means that we are coming from a fear-based place. Now, I'm not telling you to be a doormat, and I'm not telling you to be a pushover, and I'm not telling you to get taken advantage of. Sometimes we can't rearrange our schedule. We really need that appointment to be at that time because we've put other things on the other sides of it. Or we can't come back at another time. We can't modify for that. It is okay to stand up for yourself. But you don't have to do it in a snotty and rude way. You don't have to be like, excuse me, that was my turn. No, you can very kindly say, you know what? I think I was here and I just don't have time to delay. So is that okay if I go? We can be kind and we can be polite and we don't have to be waiting for people to take advantage of us. And we don't have to let people take advantage of us, but we don't have to be rude. So I started that experiment a while back and have found that people are generous and people are looking out for others. So as I'm sitting there in the piano teacher's room, or house, the old pattern is that was our slot that has been scheduled for months and months. And because she didn't check with me, we have the right to that spot, right? I heard that. An old pattern sometimes is still going to come up and you're going to hear it, right? So there it is. And then the new pattern is, hey, we're not that busy. These people came from farther than us. I was just going to dump my kids and go to the grocery store, but they can come to the grocery store with me, and I certainly have things I can do to delay their piano lessons by an hour. So why not be flexible? And why not be generous? There's no reason that isn't fear-based to choose generosity and flexibility and trust in other people. So they went for the lessons that were in our slot, and we went to the grocery store and came back and had a later lesson, and they were very grateful to us for making a modification. And then you've got the channel of love open, right? Because you're operating from a love-based place and not a fear-based place. So next time you're in a situation where you hear yourself getting into the justice of your spot in line, your turn, your time slot, whatever it is, stop and ask yourself, what if I just trust that people are going to look out for me too? What if I just let go of the fear that they're not and embrace love and generosity and flexibility if possible and do a little experiment and see how much better that feels and how surprising people can be. Thank you for watching. I so appreciate your comments and your likes. And please share if you know somebody who would enjoy this message, would want or need to hear it. And I look forward to next time.